All right. So, good afternoon to everybody out there on social media world. All right, this your girl Tiffany coming through live in effect. And so today we're going to be dealing with daily Black history, where every day we talk about our African American ancestors or our people who are currently still here and their impact in society. And also we go into the concept about the events that has taken place um within not only just in America but throughout the diaspora. So I do this chronologically every single day. So today I'm going to be getting into the STEM topic. So STEM stand for science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So we're going to get into the topic of regard to the subject about the STEM, and we're going to introduce, or excuse me, I am going to introduce a lady named Shirley Ann Jackson, who is an American physics. So what I'm going to do is show you a picture of her before I get started. All right. So, all right, this is Miss Shirley Ann Jackson right here. She is an American physics. So let's get into her biography. All right. So now she was born on today of 1946, August the 5th of 1946. All right, and I'm on the website. It's called math.buffalo.edu, Physics of the African Diaspora. Again, Physics of the African Diaspora. All right. So she has a pre-doctoral education of Bachelor of Science 1968 from Massachusetts Institution of Technology. Okay. And she has a PhD in physics from 1973 in Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Okay. And she is the president of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. Okay. So let's look into her life. Jackson was born on August 5th of 1946 in Washington, D.C. Her parents, Beatrice and George Jackson, strongly valued education and encouraged her in school. Her father spurred on her interest in science by helping her with projects for her science classes. At Roosevelt High School, Jackson attended accelerated programs in both math and science, and she graduated in 1964 as a valedictorian. And for anybody that doesn't know what a valedictorian is, that's somebody who has a GPA of 4.0 and above. So that means like a straight A students. Okay. Jackson began class at MIT that same year. One of her fewer than 20 African American students, and the only one studying theoretical physics. While a student, she did volunteer work at Boston City Hospital and tutored students at the Roxburgh YMCA. She earned her bachelor's degree in 1968, writing her thesis on solid state physics, a subject then in the forefront of theoretical physics. It says, although accepted at Brown, Harvard, and the University of Chicago, Jackson decided to stay at MIT, which is Massachusetts Institute of Technology. Okay. For her doctoral work because she wanted to encourage more African American students to attend the institution. She worked on elementary particle theory for her PhD, which she completed in 1973. Her research was directed by James Young, the first African American tenured full professor at MIT's physics department. Jackson's thesis, the study of multi-peripheral model with continued cross-channel unitarily, was subsequently published in the Annals of Physics in 1975. Now, I want to say this. Physics has to be one of the most toughest subjects to ever study. And there's different fields of physics, all right? So you got applied physics, you got theoretical physics, you got nuclear physics, you got basic physics, and you have quantum physics. And to me, the most complicated one is quantum physics because, especially when you're trying to associate with the concept of consciousness, it's very complicated. So I have a friend of mine that has a degree in physics, and physics require a lot of work, a lot of studying, a lot of understanding and apprehension. So yes, I give her kudos for that. And it says, as a postdoctoral student of subatomic particles during the 1970s, Jackson studied and conducted research at a number of prestigious physics laboratories in both the United States and Europe. Her first position was as research associate at the Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory in Batavia, Illinois, known as Fermilab, where she studied hadrons, medium to large subatomic particles that include baryons and mesons. All right. In 1974, she became visiting scientist at the Accelerator Lab at the European Center for Nuclear Research, which is CERN, in Switzerland. There, she explored theories of strongly interacting elementary particles. All right, in 1976 and 1977, she both lectured in physics at the Stanford Linear uh, Accelerator Center and became a visiting scientist at the Aspen Center for Physics. So let's start right there. So yes, many may think that science is a boring subject, right? Which it can be, but it can also be fun at the same time. Because why would I say be fun and interesting? Well, because everything around us is based on science. Even the things that we do in our daily lives is based on science. So science is dealing with the general knowledge of all things. That's what it is. So yeah, it could be boring, but it could be quite interesting because science is life in itself. I mean, it's centered around a lot of things, but the main component or the main key factor of life is science. So how can't you go anywhere without science? Without science, you wouldn't even have life on this planet. And that's a fact. It says, although Dr. Jackson took her doctorate in theoretical high energy physics and later switched fields to theoretical condensed matter physics, comment from Claude Poe, Dartmouth College email communication on February 7, 1997. It says, her research has focused on Landau theories of charge density waves in 1 and 2 dimensions. Dr. Jackson's research also touched on two-dimensional Yang-Mills gauge theories and uh, neutrino reaction. It says, I am interested in the electronic, optical, magnetic, and transport properties of novel semiconductor system. Of special interest are the behavior of magnetic uh, polarons in semi-magnetic and dulate magnetic semiconductors and the optical response properties of semiconductor quantum wells and superlatids. My interest also includes quantum dots, mesoscopic systems, and role of anti what's it anti for ferromagnetic anti-ferromagnetic fluctuation in correlated 2D electron systems. Mm. Well, that's a lot. Okay. So I'm going to read a little bit of this paragraph, then I'm going to have to skip down. It says Jason's areas of interest in physics is the study of the subatomic particle found within atoms, the tiny units of which all matters is made. Subatomic particles, which are usually very unstable and short-lived, can be studied in several ways. One method is using a particle accelerator, a device in which nuclei are accelerated to high speeds and then collide with a target to separate them into subatomic particles. Another way of studying them is by detecting their movements using certain kinds of non-conducting solids. When some solids are exposed to high energy particles, the crystal lattice structure of the atoms is distorted, and with this phenomenon leaves marks or tracks that can be seen with an electron microscope. And it says photographs of the tracks are then enhanced, and by examining these photographs, physicists like Jackson can make prediction about what kinds of particle have caused the marks. All right. And so right here it says that she joined the theoretical physics research department at AT&T Bell Laboratories in 1976. The research projects at this facility are designed to examine the properties of various materials in the effort to discover useful application. Mm-hmm. It says in 1978, Jackson became part of the scattering and low energy um, physics research department, and then in 1988 she moved to the solid state and quantum physics research department. And that's so ironic. I just spoke on quantum physics. That's very ironic. Okay. And so let's get down. It says in her research, Jackson has made contribution to the knowledge of such as charge density, waves, and layer compounds, polyronic aspects of electrons in the surface of liquid helium films, and optical and electronic properties of semiconductor strained layer of superlattice. Right. On these topics and others, she has prepared or collaborated on over 100 scientific articles. All right, and then it goes down to say where she has received many scholarship, including the Martin Marietta Aircraft Company Scholarship and Fellowship, the Prince Hall Masons Scholarship. Wow, she has received the Prince Hall Mason Scholarship and the National Science Foundation Traineeship and a Ford Foundation Advanced Study Fellowship. Okay, Dr. Jackson was NSBP, and I want to know what does that mean. Okay, so NSBP is the National Society of Black Physics. So we'll go to that website later. All right, and it says president from 1980 to 1982. She was elected to the American Physical Society and selected a CIBA GEIGY exceptional black scientist. In 1985, Governor Thomas King appointed her to the New Jersey Commission on Science and Technology. Then in the early 1990s, Governor James Ferriero awarded her the Thomas Alva Edison Science Award for her contribution to physics and for the promotion of science. Jackson is an active voice in numerous committees of the National Academy of Science, the American Association for the Advancement of Science, and the National Science Foundation, where her aim has been to actively promote women in science. From 1976 to 1991, Dr. Jackson was appointed as professor of physics at Rutgers University in Piscataway, New Jersey in 1995. Okay. When she was appointed head of the Nuclear Regulatory Commission by President Bill Clinton in 1999, Dr. Shirley Jackson became the first female and the first black to president of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. In 2001, she was elected member of the of Engineers. In December of 2002, Jackson was elected president elect 2003 of AAAS, which is American Association for the Advancement of Science, the world's largest general scientific society and publisher of the journal. In 2004, Science Spectrum Magazine and Career Communication Group Incorporation selected Dr. Jackson as one of the 50 most important blacks in research science. She is president in 2004 and the chair AAS board in 2005. All right, so she is married and she has one son. So this woman has many accomplished. So you know what? Speaking of that, by her being African American and being a woman, you know the stereotype. Yeah, and on top of that, you don't hear as much about black people, well, particularly black women in the scientific field, such as physics. So what I want to do is, right, I want to go ahead and hmm. So what I want to do is I want to go ahead and read the article, right? It's an article that's dealing with about women in science with actually three articles that I'm gonna look at. So I'm gonna look at this first article right here. It's coming from ScienceDaily.com, and why is it taking so long? Okay, so right here, this is come from ScienceDaily.com. All right, and you're dealing with science news. Right here, the title is "Language May Undermine Women in Science and Tech." The date was August 3rd of 2020. Carnegie Mellon University, that's the source. Researcher exam gender stereotype into 25 languages to explore why fewer women enter science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields. Okay, so let's look at this. And I think that it's important to understand why so many women don't get involved. This is very few can read despised to encouragement and girls to education tracks and a new study of stereotypes. The results are available in the August 3rd issue of Nature. Okay. So right here it says Molly Lewis, special faculty at SMU, and her research partner Gary Lupien, associate professor at University of Wisconsin Madison, set out to examine the effect of language on career stereotypes by gender. Predicted by the language that we speak. Their work suggests that linguistics association may be casually related to people's implicit judgment of what women can accomplish. Ooh, and let's go on. And it says young children have strong gender stereotypes as do older adults. And the question is, where do these biases come from? Said Lewis, first author on the study. No one has looked at implicit language, simple language that co-occurs over a large body of text that could give information about stereotypical norms in our culture across different languages. Okay, and so it goes in here. In general, the team examined how co-occur with women. Excuse me, how words co-occur with women compared to men. For example, how often is woman associated with home, children, and family, whereas man was associated with work, career, and business. What's not obvious is that a lot of information that is contained in language, including information about cultural stereotype, occurs not as direct statements but in large scales statistical relationship between words, said Lupien, a senior author on the study. Even without encountering direct statement, it is possible to learn that there is stereotype embedded in the language of women being better at some things and men at others. They found that languages with a strong embedded gender association are more clearly associated with career stereotypes. They also found that a positive relationship between gender marked occupation terms and the strength of these gender stereotypes. All right, so let's go down. It says, surprisingly, they found that the median age of the country influences the study's results. Countries with a larger older population have stronger bias in career gender association. It says the consequence of these results are pretty profound, said Lewis. The results suggest that if you speak a language that is really biased, then you are more likely to have a gender stereotype that associates men with career and women with family. Um, and then also goes on and says she suggests children's books be written and designed to not have gender biased statistics. These results also have implication for a logarithm fairness research aimed at eliminating bias in computer algorithms. All right, and then it goes on to say our study shows that language statistic predicts people implicit biases. Languages with greater gender biases tend to have speakers with greater gender biases. The results, Lupien said, the results are correlational, but that the relationship persists under various controls and does suggest a casual influence. Okay. And it says Lewis note the implicit association test used in this study has been criticized for low reliability and limited external validity. She stresses that the additional work using a longitudinal analysis, right, and experimental design is necessary to explore language, statistic, and implicit association with gender stereotypes. So, for years, to sum it all up, uh, the stereotypical concept has always been that women is more associated with home environment or home economics than men. So during the time period in the scientific field, they felt that science was more appropriate for men than it was for women, and that men had the much more mental capacity and they had much more ability to get into scientific fields and more intellectual than women when it comes to science, especially with math and physics and things of that nature. But that's always been a joke coming up when I was growing up as a kid. They used to say that girls was not good in science and math. Like science and math was not a girl's strongest subject. And you know what? In some cases, that is true. In some cases, math was not a very strong subject for most females. My most female peers around me, they weren't very good at math, and most of them weren't even very good at science. And math fact, I used to love math. Math was my subject. I love dealing with the equation, learn about quadratic formula, linear equation, midpoints, and let's see, exponents, uh, logarithms, all that. One of my favorites was algebra. I just used to love math. I used to love dealing with numbers. I didn't like anything else but math, and I was very good at it. And then later on, I started losing interest. Yeah, so I could still keep up. I could still calculate things. Now, don't get it wrong. I can calculate, but I was growing uninterested in dealing with mathematics and stuff like that. Like it wasn't my strong expertise anymore. So I started getting to the habit of doing more reading and getting into learning about sociology, which is science, but that's social science, and it's also art because you're dealing with humans creation and social interaction and philosophies and things like that. So that's why sociology is also dealing with liberal arts, or considered as arts rather. But anyways, back to the point. Yeah, so it's always been that the attitude is that women science is not a field that women should really get involved to. That was the attitude. But things are slowly changing at this point. Um, I want to read this important piece right here about black and astro, black women in astronomy and physics. Okay. So let's look it up right here. All right, so I'm gonna so here's the website. That's on astrobytes.org. Again, that's astrobytes.org, and it was written on June 25th of 2020. Okay. Okay then. So anyways, okay, so this article right here deals with black and astro, black women in astronomy and physics. So let's go down the article. It was written by Katie Storley Fisher. All right. It says this post is part of our series Blacks and Astro for our cornerstone post. See here. This week we will be posting a Blacks and Astro story every day for Black and Astro Week. All right. So it says in this installment, we look at the underrepresentation of Black women in astro slash physics and summarize two papers that examine the obstacles these physics face, the strategy they employ to overcome them, and how department can support Black women physics. Okay. So right here, it says there are fewer than 100 Black women with PhDs in physics. Only 22 Black women hold PhDs in astronomy or related fields. You can see many of their names on the African American Women in Physics website. Okay. I'll be sure to look into that. Let's look at that. Okay, now I know about this. Oh, that is cool. Wow, how cool. Hmm. Let's see what else they got on here. Okay. All right, that's interesting. That's cool. All right, so I'll look into that later. But, anyways, it says, as we celebrate these physicists and their contribution to the field, we also need to understand why there are so few Black women in physics and astronomy and their experience in the field. Now, let's read on why there's only few Black women. Okay, Black women hold a marginalized identity along the axis of both race and gender, and this intersection of oppressions manifests differently than each on its own. This is at the core of intersectionality and is encapsulated by a quote from Dr. Evelyn Hammonds, the former dean of Harvard College and scholar on the history of science, who received her bachelor's in physics. Race and gender aren't separate in me. I am always Black and female. I can't say, well, that was just a sexist remark without wondering, would he have made the same sexist remark to a white woman? That takes a lot of energy to be constantly trying to figure out which one it is, being Black, female, and wanting to do science and being taken seriously. But let's continue. It says, though the small number of Black women in the field raises challenges in researching their experiences, there is still a significant literature on this subject. In this post, we first look at the numbers and then break down the two paper, one on successful Black women physicists through the lens on critical race theory and another on the identities of Black undergraduate women in STEM. Hmm. Okay, this was written in 2018. Huh. Interesting. Okay. And then let's see what they're talking about successful Black women physics. Okay. That was written on August the 1st of 2016 on journalaps.org. Okay, it says this this disaggregating the data. Go down here, it says when we see statistics about the underrepresentation of certain groups, it is often aggregated so that it is only displayed along with one axis at a time. In this case, we might see that women receive 19% of bachelor's degree in physics and that Black students receive 2.4%. Only 2.4%. Okay. So, according to this data, right, they saying that only 19%, or in cases like this, you might see 19% of women receive degrees and only 2.4% of Blacks receiving a degree. Let's look at that. It says, but when we look at the disaggregated data, we see an even more stark picture. Now, I'm gonna highlight this. It says Black women receive only 0.8% a bachelor's degree in physics, 55 out of 7,000 per year, averaged from 2013 to 2017. Despite earning 11% of degrees across all subjects, there are 25 times more white women than Black women with physics bachelors. while white women hold only 6 times more bachelor's degrees in any subject than black women. The numbers are similar in astronomy. Black women receive 1% of astronomy bachelor's degrees, despite women overall earning a share of 33%. Black women only receive 1% in astronomy bachelor's degrees. And they make up the population of those 2.5% of blacks in the physics program or astronomy program. Now let's continue on. Let's read where black women are further underrepresented at the PhD and faculty levels. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that. It says, black women are further underrepresented at the PhD and faculty levels. Only a handful receive PhDs in physics each year, though the numbers have risen very slightly over the past couple of decades. All right. Between 1973 and 2015, 66 black women received physics and PhDs, while over 22,000 PhDs in physics went to white men. In astronomy, 2% of women earning PhDs in 2016 were black, less than 1% of all astronomy physics. Finally, at the faculty level, black women represent 0.33% of U.S. physics professors, despite making up 6.4% of the general population. Okay, so they make up 6.4% of general population, right? But only 0.33% are U.S. physics professors. Allow that to sink. All right, and here's the number right here. So the number of American women who earn doctorate degrees in physics, figure via course data via the NSF. Now, as you can see, the numbers are very low. Black women make up the lowest. Hispanic women the numbers go a little higher for Hispanic women, Asian women, right? And of course, white women. But black women make up the lowest number, according to this data report. These numbers make clear the severity of underrepresentation of black women in the field. They don't tell us, however, about the experiences of these physics. For this, we look at the social science literature. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and skip some of this paragraph here. Well, I'm gonna read this first paragraph, then I'm gonna skip down. It says, a 2006 lived experiences of black women physics. A 2016 paper by Rosa and Minish, was it Mensah, Educational Pathways of Black Women Physics, Stories of Experiencing and Overcoming Obstacles in Life. Okay. That's interesting. I'm going to look that up later. I'm going to say that for later. All right. It says performs a deep qualitative study of black women in physics. They interviewed 6 black women who have a PhD in physics or a related field. This work then does not give insight into past of black women physics who were pushed out of the field or those who were prevented from ever entering. Rather, it focuses on how these 6 women overcame obstacles imposed on them due to their identities and remain in physics related careers. Okay. And then right here it says the authors used the critical race theory framework to understand these women's experiences. They focus on three elements of CRT: counter storytelling, lived experience are critical to challenging dominant narratives, and the permanence of racism. Racism is structural and causes disadvantages for people of color. And interest convergence, actions that benefit Black people are taken only when they also benefit white people. Actions that benefit Black people are only taken when they also benefit white people. That little undermined paragraph, keyword, the action that benefits Black people will only be taken seriously when it also benefits white people. Basically, is what they're saying. So if it doesn't benefit white people, then it's not going to be beneficial to Black people. Now, do you see what I've been talking about for the longest? This is what you call a system that's predicated upon white supremacy, white ideology, Western philosophy. To be honest with you, a lot of things center around white folks. It's centered around the white authority figure, because you gotta understand that white people are considered as those who are mostly privileged in any field, especially in science. So if it does not benefit them, it ain't gonna benefit us. So it can't benefit us unless it benefits white people. But let's go ahead and continue. They present their findings through two of these, which align with the obstacles faced and overcome by the interview physics. Okay, so let's look down. Right here. Okay, first is dealing with facing obstacles, the permanence of racism. Many of the women share stories about facing discrimination from teachers who dismiss their goals to learn science. This falls into the category of microaggressions, which are racialized and sometimes further gender interaction that send a message that people of color don't belong. The Let me highlight this. The study also reveals study groups to be a significant site of racism. Many of the women describe being actively excluded from peer study groups throughout their undergraduate and graduate coursework. This contributes to the isolation they experience, often as the only Black woman in their department. Oh, let me highlight this. All right. It says overcoming obstacle, interest convergent. The study presents Black women in physics as a case of interest convergence, as the underrepresentation of Black women in STEM converges with the country's dearth of trained scientists. The government addresses this by providing federal funding opportunities, which end up giving Black women the support they need to persist in the field. All of the women cited federal funding as significant to their trajectories. Five of them were supported by NASA at some point, and many also attended various funded summer research programs, which provided a science community in addition to financial support. All right, and then let's look what this says right here. All right, it says one student figured out when the study groups were meeting and invited herself, leveraging her previous master's degree to prove herself. Other forms study/support networks with Black students and students of color in other departments, though this was more of a necessary act than a choice. And then it says overall, the authors find that the persistent racism hindered the physics educations and that they employ some common strategies for surviving in the field. The paper further notes the importance of a passion for physics, but finds that this only becomes a dominant force for the black women physics when they are otherwise supported. Once they are on track, they discuss with much excitement, love, pleasure, and passion physics content and refer to specific events in their laboratory or their research. All right. So, and then let's go down to here. It says Black Girl Magic, a poetic look at black women in STEM. Blah, 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 blah. It goes in much of the literature, position, multiply, marginalized identities as risk factors that the individuals must overcome in pursuing STEM degrees. However, recent work has looked at whether these identities can also serve a positive role. Here we look at the 2018 paper, Black Girl Magic, hashtag the identity conceptualized of black women in undergraduate STEM education by Morton and Pearson. Okay. All right. So, okay. So, that's enough of this article. If you want to read more about it, all you got to do is look at astrobites.org. Black in Astro, Black Women in Astronomy and Physics. All right. Go into their website and then they got some information, which is the African American women in physics. All you got to do is type in. You can pop up their website. Um, let's see this. Okay. So this was written in 2015. In 39 years, U.S. physics doctrine went to 66 black women and 22,000 white men. Ooh. Hmm. Let's see. So this is the article right here, right? And look at the numbers. It says Americans who earned physics doctorate in the U.S. from 1973 to 2012. Men, white men, Asian men make up the highest, right? White women and Asian women make up the highest, but only 6 Native American women, 47 Native American men, 66 black women, and 354 black men. And check out what sister said. Her name is Linnell Williams, graduated with a bachelor's in physics from Wesleyan University in 2015 and will start a master's and PhD bridge program in the fall. As a physics student from a middle class Memphis background, Williams told courts it's hard for her to fully relate to many of her peers, while upper class white women can't understand her experience as a middle class black student. Men of color can't understand the sexism she faced. And it says it was hard, especially she put it was hard, especially as a woman of color, to sit in my classes and not have anyone look like me. And said it was hard to find study group. It was hard for me to keep up with my work with the lack of preparation, and also it was hard for me to find a community. It was hard, especially as a woman of color, to sit in my classes and not have anyone look like me. That right there, it shows that there was alienation, disassociation, and disconnect. Okay. So, and I also want to read this other article, and then I'm gonna get off. Well, I'm gonna read this article for a few minutes. This article happened to come from BBC.com. Okay. And it was written on June 24th of 2020. Black women scientists missing from textbooks. Study finds. Now, why was black women scientists missing from textbooks? Let's find out. Let's find out the reason why. Oh boy. Now it says scientists features in textbooks are predominantly white men, according to a study. U.S. biology textbooks highlight 7 men for every woman scientist, and black women were not represented a single time in any of the work analyzed. Based on the current rate, it will be centuries before the books used to teach undergraduate biology in the U.S. match the diversity of their readers, says researchers. We don't see any, for instance, black women scientists across any textbook, said Dr. Cicely Ballin of Auburn University in Alabama, U.S. The study analyzed more than 1,000 scientific names featured in 7 modern biology textbooks used to teach undergraduates entering science and medicine in the U.S. They range from historical figures such as Charles Darwin and Gregor Mendel to contemporary scientists such as Jane Goodall. Overall, 13% of the scientists featured were women, while 6.7% were from Black, Asian, minority ethnic backgrounds. It says previous research has shown the importance of diverse, relatable roles models in science, said Dr. Ballin. Not to be able to see anyone like them in these kinds of fundamental textbooks that they're using, I think it would have really negative effect, she said. Of course it will. It will have a negative effect if you don't see anybody that looks like you or that's in your same ethnic group that's also in the field, because it makes you feel left out. It makes you feel like you're by yourself, that you're the only one. And of course, you're not going to see black women in scientific tests, but you know why? Because we still operate under institutional racism. That's why. You operate under the European narratives. That's why. European has made themselves the center of all things in this society. Have you noticed that? Have anyone taken notice of that? So again, for all you bougie black folks out there that think that, oh, we don't deal with racism don't exist, you're lying to yourself. You ain't educated enough. You ain't even paying attention to what's going on within your field. You can keep on perpetrating and believing that it's not. That's why you're dealing with that, because you're operating from a European standpoint. Institutional racism. That's what it's called. That's why you won't see black women in these textbooks. They're undervalued and underprivileged. Undervalued, underprivileged, and underrepresented. Period. All right. So it says there have been some gains in recent years, particularly where women and Asian men are concerned, said the researchers. Despite this, the scientists portrayed are not representative of their target audience, particularly among Asian and Hispanic women, while black women while black women were not represented at all. But you know what? You know what? Don't expect for them to look you up in the textbook. Don't expect for them to put you in the textbook. If you really want to find out some information, go look up the list of African Americans scientists. As a matter of fact, I will post this up myself for those of you that may be interested, right? I would give you the list. Okay, just give me a second. Okay, I'm gonna give you some books that you can look up. You know what? Just give me a second, cause I know I got some information on here in my archives. Yeah, I'm looking through the archives right now. Hmm. Oh boy, hold on. Hold on. Okay, so here's one book right here. Okay, so for those of you, you can look this book up right here, Black in Science, Ancient and Modern by Ivan Van Sertima, right? Now, there is some critique about Ivan Van Sertima's work. Some of his information is outdated and stuff, but he got some information on blacks and scientists. Also, you can look up what's the brother's name? He's British. I can't think of the other brother's name. His name is Robert I can't get his name off the top of my head. Um, he also deals with the research about African Americans in history and in science. I know his name is Dr. Robin somebody, but you know what? There's a list of books out there that you can research upon, and also you can look up this lady right here. She got some books about black women in science. Hold up. Okay, so Okay. So right here, you can look up this lady right here. Her name is Darlene Clark Hines. Darlene Clark Hines, right? She has written plenty of books. She got one about the African American Odyssey, right? Black women in America, African American, a concise history, African American history, the African American Odyssey again. Let's see, facts on file, encyclopedia of Black women in America. Okay, let's see what this book is about. Okay, she got facts on file, encyclopedia of Black women in America, volume 1, early years from 1617 to 1899. All right, and she got volume 8 on religion and community. Let's see if she got the one about science, because I remember reading some of her books. She got the one about social activism. All right, theater and arts and entertainment, Black women. And she got one on Black women in education, volume 7. And I'm yep. She got the other one, Black women in profession, the facts on file as encyclopedia of Black women in America, business and professions. Let's see which one she got. All right, she got the one about literature. All right. So yeah, you can find many information about Black people in science, Black people in any professional field. Oh, I know the name of the author. Let's look up Dr. Robin Walker. I think that's his name, Robin Walker. Yep. Okay. So let's see, Blacks in science. Hmm. Okay, so here go one right here. Right? Blacks and Science, Volume 1, Ancient Egyptian Contributions to Science and Technology in the Mysterious Science of the Great Pyramid by Dr. Mr. Robin Oliver Walker. Okay. Then here you go, Volume 2. You got Blacks in Science, Volume 2, West and East African Contribution to Science and Technology and Intellectual Life and Legacy of Timbuktu. Okay. Then you got the third one. All right. It says Blacks in Science, Volume 3, African American Contribution to Science and Technology. Right here. Okay. So with that being said, there's a lot of information that you guys can look up for yourself. If they don't write it in the literature books, then don't be surprised. You can find books out there. I gave you the list of authors. You can look at Ivan Van Sertima. He talks about blacks in science. Dr. Robin Walker, Blacks and Science. He got 3 volumes, right? And also you have Dr. Darlene Hines, who writes about black women in science and black women in their careers, right? And then you can also check out my brother Supreme Understanding, who also write about a book called Black Invents Everything. So yeah, look up Supreme Understanding books. Check him out. All right. Other than that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching, for tuning in and listening as usual. If you guys want support, also make sure you support that Cash App right there. If you guys like what you watching and you like what you're viewing and the contents that I'm posting up and all that good stuff, you go ahead and support it. That's the Cash App, $tip world. $tip world, Cash App. Other than that, you guys have a wonderful day, a wonderful afternoon. Please be safe out here. And until next time, take it easy on yourselves and look out for each other. And I will come back to you guys later with some more information. So with that being the case, may peace and power elevation be to all of you. And y'all have a good one. Peace.